Let's talk about the Texas Rangers. Superlatives. Sean McFarland for the Dallas Morning News. By the way, who he's been hustling out of spring training as well. I know we talked about Evan Grant. People probably know Evan Grant better, but Sean McFarland's been putting out some good content from spring training as well. Who do you think, and I'll preface all of this by saying I realize spring training can mean a lot to some and not really too much to others. Who has been the hottest Rangers player at the plate?
So far?
Yes.
I'm assuming Wyatt Langford.
Wyatt Langford tied for the club lead the Cactus League lead with 4 home runs, team high 9 RBIs, second most hits on the team. His defense and left hasn't been great, but that wasn't the question I asked. How has this player been hottest at the plate? His slash line, 360, 542, and 840 on the slugging. He has looked all the part of somebody who can swing the bat.
At this point, with 2 weeks to go, with Seager, I will say most likely not being on your opening day roster because of injury. Nate Lowe, 50-50 at best. I will give Josh Young right now, as his MRI results came back and they said, hey, keep progressing, but no running yet. Yeah. I will say that he has a 60% chance to be on the opening day roster and playing third base. He might
start running this week.
Yeah,
double check.
But they said at least after the MRI, like we're not doing running now, but where the progress is going to keep coming. I will be surprised at this point if Wyatt Langford isn't batting third on opening night against the Chicago Cubs.
Ooh, okay.
What else could he do? Like he can't do obviously leaving out the defense. Yeah. And I get it. Arizona. The sky doesn't have a lot of clouds, and I know, like, what does that matter? Your depth perception is a little bit off. The ball's carrying on him that he's not used to. In fact, he played in, for most part, SEC is more of that dense humidity type of situation where the ball is going to be less. Then you play with a harder ball, and if people don't know this, the baseball in the major leagues is the hardest ball with the least amount of seams possible. So the ball's going to carry more than he's ever been used to in his life. Then you have the wind blowing out to left field in surprise and the ball carrying there. So I'm going to give him some excuses right now on why left field has been a little bit of an adventure. But offensively, you literally couldn't ask for more.
I'm with you on that. Sharpest pitcher thus far on the mound.
For the Rangers?
For the Rangers. If you've been listening to the show,
take me to church.
Take me to church, indeed. Mark Church. He has more strikeouts than hits and walks allowed. Batters are hitting 0.048. That's probably a better way to put it against him. His fastball sits in the mid-90s. His slider has proved to be an efficient secondary offering. This kid has been tremendous in spring training. And how much you put weight into spring training versus minor leagues versus all this other stuff, I think this is somebody who has made their way onto the roster.
So far, he's taken advantage of his opportunity.
Unbelievable.
There's, he's not of the category of Wyatt Langford prospect status-wise.
For comparison, he was an 18th round pick, and if you remember the story, who took up pitching off of a $50 bet.
I like that round a lot.
Was that your round?
Yeah, that was my round.
Delightful.
He has to continue this. I'm not saying at that level. Yeah. That's almost impossible to just keep doing that. You become Mariano Rivera if you keep doing that. So as long as he keeps putting up positive outings, he's going to be on the team. And if there's one bad outing, they're going to go, fine. If there's 2 in a row in these next 2 weeks, they're going to go, are we sure? Are we ready to put him in this situation in the major leagues? I think they're leaning towards yes. But in fact, I don't know. You talk to a lot of guys and they'll say almost in a way they want him to have one bad outing here as he's competing to make the team because they want to see, they give him a day off and put him back out there and see how he handles it. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's almost like they're not going, hey, go out there and give up a 3-run bomb here. But they're almost like, let's see how he handles, because it's going to happen. In the regular season, every reliever is going to have a bad game where they blow the game and you lose the game and you feel like we lost it because of one person and one person only, that relief pitcher. That will happen to Mark Church at some point this season, most likely on the Texas Rangers. I need to see that next night, if I put him in the same situation against that same team, is he still going to have that confidence that I need him to have to execute the pitches and get out of that situation? Because that's what makes, and look, this is why I struggled to stay in the major leagues. I couldn't be consistent enough to stay. I could always be good enough to make it. I couldn't be consistent enough to stay. And so sometimes they want to see a guy like Church have a bad outing and then see if he bounces back well from it.
Especially because I think he has the potential, I'm not saying this year, but down the road, because he is a younger player, to be a closer. Hopefully to be the Rangers closer.
Yeah, it's, stuff is one thing. Jonathan Hernandez has the stuff to be a closer.
By the way, Jonathan Hernandez, I believe we'll see his first action today. Although Bochy did point out, we talked about this last week in our bullpen segment, could be tough to ramp him up in time for opening day. Not to say that means you're screwed or anything like that, but we've focused a lot on what's the roster going to look like on opening day. And so for Jonathan Hernandez, could be tough.
Just a reminder, you're going to break camp with 13. You're going to use approximately 26 to 30 pitchers this year. So
we got plenty of room.
So if you don't make the team, if somehow Mark Church, who I'm with you, I think he will, but if for some reason he wasn't on the opening day roster, he will probably be one of the approximately 30 pitchers who pitches for the Rangers this year.
And I think this person will fall in that group as well. What's the most encouraging development of spring training?
Bradford?
Bradford makes a whole lot of sense. Jack Leiter is who the Dallas Morning News put on there, because what's the difficulty if you're looking to control things? Don't you think if you're looking to control your pitches a little bit more, you might automatically lose some velocity if you're focusing so much on that? The good thing for Jack Leiter is, and there's still plenty to work on, he has kept his velocity at the same level while harnessing some of the control. And I think that's a huge potential development for the Rangers, not in terms of April, but maybe in terms of August, September.
And remember, this was such a major investment, so I get why they're put. This was a number 2 pick, and you gave him a little bit over slot to make sure that you got him. And the reason I'm bringing that up, like, who cares what he signs for? Well, it matters a lot to Kumar Rocker, because if he doesn't really work out, Rocker's hopefully coming back in June, July-ish to start pitching this year in the minor leagues, you did a double draft with Rocker. He took $3 million less than what the 3rd overall pick should get, so that they could give $4 million to their 4th round pick, Brock Porter. It was a Scott Boras deal. They both are represented by Scott Boras. So if for some reason Rocker struggled with injuries, you can say the 3rd overall pick. Well,
take a look at your 4th round pick.
He only went 3rd because of the double deal that Scott Boras made with the Texas Rangers. So Jack Leiter went 2nd because they're like, this is going to be a premium pitcher for us in the future.
And if we're staying in that same kind of category, least encouraging development, we talked about this when we saw it happening at spring training.
Owen White
and Cole Winn.
Okay.
Now, you might be like, Cole Winn further on down the road. However, these were the 1st and 2nd picks for the Rangers in 2018. Win in 4 outings. 15 combined hits and walks and a 9.82 ERA. White in 3 Cactus League outings. He was in there for 6 innings. He gave up a combined 13 hits and runs, had an ERA of 9. It was at a time when I think there is a true competition happening for the number 5 spot. Now, you would have to pitch really well to take it from Bradford. But at a time when I think you could have looked at Cole Winn and said, it's there if you want it. You could look at Owen White and say, it's there if you want it. They have both been dreadful in spring training.
It's scary. I don't know what has happened to those 2 guys. I gave the stats the other day in 2021, Cole Winn was unhittable in Double-A. And it wasn't for 3 outings. It was 70 innings. I can't remember the exact number, but around 70-plus innings. And he was dominant. And then 22 and 23 happened, and it's just been like, where did that kid go from 2021? Owen White, leading up to the 2023 season, looked like, oh, well, Cole Winn's struggling. We'll see how he does in 23. But Owen White. And then as last year's season progressed, you're like, what is happening to Owen White? And when we saw him in spring training, he just doesn't look the same. I don't know I don't know what has happened to Owen White. Usually if there's an injury, like if Kumar Rocker comes back and things are different, I get it. He had a reconstructive elbow surgery. I don't I don't know what happened to Owen White and Cole Winn. I know that their confidence is not good right now.
Was it Cole Winn's ankle, calf, something like that he took the shot off of?
Yeah.
And man, that has been bad. And this, I think, is very cool. Guy who looks most ready for opening day, Nathan Ivaldi. He has only had 2 starts, thrown a total of 5 innings. However, in that second start, his fastball velocity hit 97 miles per hour, and he sat in the mid-90s. He's got 5 strikeouts, 3 hits, and a walk. It's the kind of progression, you know how we were just talking about, sometimes spring training matters a lot. Nathan Ivaldi's not going to do anything non-injury-wise that they're going to be like, I don't know about this kid. Clearly he was penciled in, and he has looked ready to go for the season opener, making the assumption, which I am, that he'll start that opener against the Cubs.
100, as long as he's healthy.
Yeah.
That's the guy. I'm going to assume, there's only an assumption that John Gray is going to start game 2. And then Dunning game 3.
I could see
is
that.
the way that I think now. If you have Heaney and Bradford, maybe they go, we want Heaney starting game 3 and Dunning starting game 4 or whatever, just so your lefties aren't back to back. But overall, it's been, I think, a solid spring training for the Rangers. When your disappointments are guys that you weren't expecting to make the team anyways, you're just expecting them to kind of show progress from the offseason to spring training. They're having a good spring training. They obviously, position player-wise, with Lowe, Seager, and Young, hopefully need to get healthy. But, Duran last year filled in for that amount of time. Great, and so did other guys. So
Keep
hopefully,
an eye out on Jared Walsh.
Yeah. That's going to be interesting, too. And I thought Sandler made a great point. I think it was yesterday or the other day I was listening to The Fan of just saying the Nate Lowe injury gives Walsh a chance because you almost can't keep Nate Lowe and Walsh on the same team. They're the same guy in a way.
And remember, if you missed the story on Walsh, we've talked about him a few times throughout spring training. His career has been sidetracked since being an all-star in 2021 due to neurological symptoms that impacted his sleep, focus, and energy. And one of the things that Tim Hires, the hitting coach, has said is he likes the energy and what he's seen from Walsh's swings. 348 batting average, 423 on-base percentage. Again, smaller sample size, but for somebody that you're looking to jumpstart and get going again because they think they found the problem that he was going through, this isn't very encouraging. What does that mean for Foscue? I don't know. You start the season in 17 days, and it still feels like there's a heck of a lot of questions that need to be answered. But the good news is, Mike, and I hope we're on the same page here, it does feel like you have a lot of answers to these questions.
Yes, especially because you have to go back to maybe, you probably didn't feel good about this year, 2015, because you had the 4th worst record in 2014.
True.
Obviously you go back to 2011 and 12. The reason I don't say 10 is because in 2010 you're like, hey, are we really as good as that? I think they might have won 87 games in 2009. It was kind of a jump, and you were like, whoa, is this real? And then 2010, you're like, oh my God, this is real. They're actually really good. And so this is covering the Rangers since about 2009, 2010. This does feel like the most depth they've ever had position player wise in their organization.